You're already in it. That tight feeling in your chest. The pause after you sent the message. The quiet calculation while you wait for a response that hasn't come yet. You tell yourself you're calm. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. But your attention is already leaning forward. You reread what you sent. You imagine how it landed. You adjust your tone in your head for the next move. Something subtle has shifted. Not outwardly. Internally. Your mood is no longer self-contained. It's tethered. Suspended on someone else's reaction. You didn't notice the moment it happened. No alarm went off. No clear decision was made. One small reach. One extra explanation. One impulse to close distance instead of letting it breathe. And now your nervous system is doing work it didn't ask for. Monitoring. Anticipating. Preparing to respond. You call this interest. You call it effort. You call it sincerity. But underneath, something more primitive is happening. Urgency is leaking through your behavior. And urgency always speaks louder than words. You feel it when silence stretches. You feel it when the balance feels slightly off. You feel it when you wonder if you should do more, say more, prove more. That wondering is not neutral. It is a signal, not to them, to the system you're inside. And systems respond without mercy. Right now, without anyone saying it out loud, control is already moving. Not because you failed, because you leaned forward before you were anchored. If this feels uncomfortably precise, it's because you're catching the moment just before the loss becomes visible. You were taught that effort is noble, that clarity is kindness, that showing interest builds connection. You were told that if you pursue with honesty, it will be recognized. That consistency creates security, that reassurance earns trust. So you leaned in, you followed up, you made your intentions visible early, and you expected closeness in return. But what actually happened was quieter. Responses slowed, energy flattened. Initiative subtly shifted away from you. Nothing dramatic, just a cooling, a rebalancing that didn't favor the one giving more. This is where confusion sets in. Because you did what culture rewards. You were direct. You were open. You were emotionally available. And instead of appreciation, leverage dissolved. Not because you were wrong, because reality doesn't care about moral framing. Systems don't reward goodness. They reward alignment. Attraction, like any economy, follows perception of value. And value collapses when supply signals urgency. The myth says pursuit proves worth. Reality says pursuit reveals dependence. You weren't punished for wanting. You were corrected by the system for revealing need before scarcity was established. Psychology does not interpret intention. It responds to pressure, and pressure always lowers perceived worth. This is the part most people refuse to accept. They want the world to reward sincerity. They want effort to override instinct. But instinct governs first contact, always has. You followed the rules you were handed, and those rules quietly positioned you beneath the one who waited, not because they were better, because they were still. Once you see this, the old moral comfort disappears, and in its place, something colder but clearer begins to form. This is where most people stop listening, because what comes next doesn't flatter the ego. Strategists understood this long before it was softened into advice. Machiavelli observed it without apology, not as romance, as power. He wrote for rulers, not dreamers, for people who needed to see the world as it is, not as it should be. His insight was simple and unsettling. Whoever needs less governs the exchange, not through force, through position. Desire revealed too early becomes leverage for the other side, not because they are cruel, because the system invites it. This idea is uncomfortable, so it gets buried, reframed as manipulation, dismissed as cold. But psychology keeps confirming it. Behavioral studies show that perceived independence increases attraction. Uncertainty amplifies attention. Emotional self-containment signals value more reliably than reassurance ever could. This isn't romance advice. It's signal theory. In any system where attention is exchanged, the one who appears whole without the exchange is automatically elevated. Machiavelli didn't invent this. He named it. Power does not come from pursuit. It comes from being the reference point others orient around. That's why restraint feels dangerous at first. It removes the illusion of control. You stop managing perception directly. You stop feeding reassurance into the system. And what remains is raw signal. Those who understand this are often misunderstood, called distant, called indifferent. But indifference is not the mechanism. Self-command is. The lesson isn't to suppress desire. It's to refuse to let desire move you out of position. Reality rewards that alignment. Whether you approve of it or not, you're tired in a way that doesn't show on the surface. Not dramatic exhaustion, a quieter one. The kind that comes from trying to care correctly, from monitoring tone, from adjusting yourself to keep momentum alive. You feel it when you stop mid-thought and ask whether you should send that message. You feel it when interest turns into management. You feel it when effort starts replacing presence. And no one talks about that fatigue. Admitting it feels like failure. You're confused because you did everything right. You stayed respectful. You stayed available. You stayed engaged, yet the return never matched the investment. What drains you isn't rejection. It's ambiguity paired with effort. You can endure loss. What exhausts you is chasing equilibrium that never stabilizes. This is where resentment quietly begins. Not outward anger, internal contraction. You start questioning your instincts, wondering if you're too much or not enough. That confusion isn't personal weakness. It's what happens when you operate under false rules. So here's the promise, and it isn't comforting. What you're about to understand will remove the need to chase clarity, not by hardening you, but by reordering you. You won't need reassurance once you see how leverage actually moves. You won't feel compelled to close gaps that benefit you. But understand this clearly. Once this framework locks in, you won't be able to unknow it. You won't be able to return to emotional scrambling without feeling the cost immediately. This isn't about becoming distant. It's about becoming centered. And centered people don't negotiate their value through effort. If you continue, the confusion dissolves. But so does the innocence. By now, you should be ready for clarity. The roadmap is simple. There are 4 principles you must embody. Not slogans, not tricks, not quick hacks that feel good but collapse under scrutiny. These are perception shifts. Shifts that permanently alter how the system around you responds. The first principle will teach you restraint. How to let desire grow in uncertainty rather than reassurance. The second principle will show you scarcity. How absence amplifies presence. The third principle will reveal self-command. How to remain unmoved while others reveal themselves through need. The fourth principle will unlock internal authority. How control over your impulses silently shifts leverage without a single word. Each principle is a module, a lens, a structural change to how you orient in the world. This is not a checklist. You do not simply apply it once. You embody it. And once embodied, the system responds automatically. The roadmap is deceptively short. The principles are deceptively simple. Complexity comes from applying them consistently in a world that constantly tests boundaries. By the end, the hierarchy becomes obvious. Those who chase are subordinate. Those who remain centered are sovereign. You will see the old patterns fall away, and the new responses arise naturally, not through effort. This is not about controlling others. It's about controlling the mechanism that governs attention, desire, and leverage. The path is clear, the method precise. Each principle builds on the previous. Skipping one undermines all. What follows is the core body, the laws themselves, cold and unflinching. The first principle is the economy of restraint. The truth is blunt. Chasing destroys value. Urgency leaks through every word, every text, every gesture. It signals need before scarcity exists. Think of desire like a chemical reaction. Introduce the catalyst too early, and the reaction burns out before it can sustain itself. Apply it at the right pace, and the reaction grows exponentially, feeding on uncertainty. Your old behavior was transparent. You revealed emotional dependence. You supplied clarity before scarcity demanded it. The new behavior is deliberate omission. Silence becomes a tool. Patience becomes a weapon. Others respond differently when you embody restraint. They fill the space you leave. They reveal priorities, vulnerabilities, and intentions. They invest energy to chase you, not the other way around. Power here comes not from aggression or manipulation. It comes from discipline, from the ability to remain anchored while the world leans forward. You stop proving yourself. You stop closing gaps artificially. You allow the system to redistribute leverage naturally. The hierarchy is quiet, but unmistakable. The reactive lose balance. The sovereign remains centered. Restraint is not passive. It is controlled pressure. It is the signal of internal authority. By mastering this principle, you shift from someone who reacts to outcomes to someone who shapes the space in which outcomes emerge. Your attention is no longer borrowed. Your value is no longer conditional. Control is no longer something you pursue, it is something you become. The second principle is the authority of scarcity. The blunt truth is simple. Presence without scarcity loses meaning. Anything readily available loses perceived value. This is true in economics and biology, in every system where desire flows. Your old behavior diluted influence. You offered time, attention, and energy freely. You assumed effort equaled leverage, and the system quietly rebalanced against you. The new behavior is scarcity as strategy. Deliberate absence, measured engagement, a cadence that makes attention earned, not assumed. Think of it like a tide. When water floods constantly, the shore erodes. When it recedes, the land gains shape, contours, and strength. Those who chase never feel this rhythm. They panic at distance, fill the gaps prematurely, and lose power without noticing. Those who embody scarcity invite investment. Others adjust, reach, reveal intent, and often overcommit. They begin to act not out of choice, but compulsion to regain equilibrium. The power comes not from withdrawal itself, but from consistency in withdrawal, from patience that signals independence, from refusal to surrender presence without gain. This principle isn't cruelty or manipulation. It's alignment with natural laws of perception and desire. By mastering scarcity, you shift the dynamic quietly, invisibly. You transform pursuit into admission. You replace urgency with calculation. The hierarchy crystallizes. Those chasing lose context. Those embodying scarcity define the context. Scarcity is not absence. It is a signal, a marker of authority that requires no explanation, no pleading, no chasing. The third principle is the discipline of self-command. Here is the truth few admit. The moment you react, you surrender control. Impulse betrays intention. Emotion exposes leverage. Every immediate response signals need before it should exist. Your old behavior was reactive. A message read, a pause felt, a doubt sparked, each prompted action before you were fully composed. You assumed engagement equals influence, and transparency equals honesty. The new behavior is self-command. Emotional stillness becomes your default. Non-reaction becomes a tool, not a shield. You operate from presence, not response. Think of it like a predator in the wild. The hunted shows fear. The hunter shows calm. The calm is power. The calm is invisible leverage. Those around you begin to reveal themselves without you asking. Frustration leaks. Intentions surface. Need becomes evident. They chase the signal you do not broadcast. The power comes not from pushing. It comes from containing, from acting deliberately, not impulsively, from moving only when it aligns with internal authority, not external pressure. Self-command shifts the hierarchy silently. Energy falls away. Sovereignty replaces dependence. The system reorients around your consistency, not your words. Discipline is not suppression. It is clarity. It is the ability to let the world expose itself while you remain unmoved. This principle transforms pursuit into admission. It turns uncertainty into leverage. It makes you the reference point, the still center, the authority that others orbit. The fourth principle is the throne of internal authority. Here is the harsh truth few ever admit. Power is never granted by others. It is not won through effort, reassurance, or constant engagement. It is allowed. And it is allowed only to those who appear never to need it. Your old behavior sought validation externally. You measured worth by attention received. You moved to close gaps that didn't belong to you. And in doing so, you inverted leverage without noticing. The new behavior centers on sovereignty. Control is internal, not conditional. Leverage is preserved by self-mastery, not coercion. You create the environment in which others seek to validate themselves to you. Think of it like gravity. It cannot be forced. It cannot be bargained for. It simply exists, shaping everything that moves within its field. Those around you begin to act ignorantly, predictably, and without direct prompting. Their pursuit, their revelation, their investment, it becomes natural. Not because you commanded it, because your internal order signals a standard they must orient to. This principle reveals the psychological twist. All previous laws, restraint, scarcity, self-command, were tools to cultivate this internal throne. None of it was about controlling others. The real power has always been over yourself. Impulse, perception, emotional turbulence, each yields only when you refuse to grant them authority. Your sovereignty cannot be borrowed, bargained, or taken. It is earned by self-alignment, irreducible, and silent. Once this principle is embodied, the hierarchy is unmistakable. The reactive orbit around you, the sovereign remain anchored, and your presence alone redistributes leverage without a single overt action. It is time for a symbolic death. The version of yourself who chased, explained, clarified, and reassured is gone. It lived in tension, tethered to responses it could not control. It acted as though effort alone could command attention. It measured worth through validation received, not presence maintained. Watch it dissolve. Feel the weight lift as dependence sheds like old skin. The impulses that once dictated action now have no power. The urgencies that once dictated thought now pass harmlessly through your awareness. From this death rises a new authority, not granted, not earned through chase, but born from alignment with reality itself. You are now the reference point, the calm center, the unmoved observer around whom energy orbits. The hierarchy recognizes the shift immediately, whether conscious or not. This rebirth is irreversible. The old self cannot return without immediate cost. The system has already recalibrated. Responses that once demanded chase now meet stillness. Reactions that once prompted compromise now meet sovereignty. You occupy a throne of internal authority. Your presence is calibrated. Your scarcity is natural. Your restraint is deliberate. Your self-command is absolute. The rebirth is not metaphor alone. It is a restructuring of the mind and perception, a permanent elevation from reactive to sovereign. And once this threshold is crossed, the world can no longer treat you as before. The balance has shifted. The new hierarchy is in place,